Welcome to our Spring 2026 Culinary Student Assembly. Many of you, of course, are repeat students. You kind of know how this goes. So what we're going to do here today is Haley's going to come up and introduce our two guest speakers today. Okay, so Haley Matson Mathis is here on behalf of the Hawaiʻi Culinary Education Foundation, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But for those of you who don't know, we've been partnered with them for 20-something years at this point, and they're the ones that sponsor these type of extracurricular activities. So thank you very much for coming, Haley.
Good afternoon. I love coming out to your school. It's always an inspirational assembly, and today's no exception. I am the executive director of the Hawaiʻi Culinary Education Foundation, and we're a nonprofit dedicated to culinary education throughout Hawaii. We do educational programs at all the Hawaii community colleges, and we also do mentoring at the high schools, as well as in professional workshops for working cooks and chefs. Gary Manago serves on our board and has since the beginning of the organization. We've been around since 1998, and our mission is all of you. We believe that you're the future of culinary in Hawaii, and you're the ones that are going to go forward and take this industry forward. So we're excited to present today's program. Today's program to me is especially meaningful because I grew up on a fourth-generation family ranch, and my sister just texted me they are feeding cattle right today because they have a big winter storm coming in. I grew up on the mainland. I grew up showing cattle and raising beef my entire life. So when I was a little girl, I was feeding cattle and growing animals. So I believe strongly in locally produced beef, and that is a topic that we're going to talk about today. And we have two great experts with us who are working hard to make the industry a better local food system for all of us. We have Micah Richards with us, and these folks have moved heaven and earth to be with us today because they have extremely complicated work schedules and had a lot going on, and I appreciate them sacrificing their time to do this program. And Micah is going to talk to us about the sustainable food and the practices he's working on with local ranchers throughout Hawaii. He went to Kamehameha schools and Occidental College, and in college he was known for his award-winning barbecues and luau's, helping out with family barbecues and luau's, and he got a passion for helping out his family on the Big Island with branding cattle. He traveled throughout Asia and the mainland U.S. and enjoyed eating everywhere that he went, and he even won a Hawaii versus Texas barbecue contest his senior year in college. So he's had a long-standing love of good food, and the love of grass-fed beef came about after tasting that burger over on the Big Island and getting that amazing flavor that you get from grass-fed beef. He's also going to talk a little bit about venison today, which is going to be on the subject as well. He got involved in working in the industry with the Big Island families after the COVID pandemic, and providing food for local families. And now Mauka Meats is working with small USDA processing units, such as Hawaiʻi Island Meat Cooperative and the Molokai Livestock Cooperative, with over 50 ranches involved. So these are family ranches, which I love to hear about, and he's going to share with us today. He also has served, they've also distributed over 20,000 pounds of Hawaii source meat annually to the Waianae Coast Comprehensive Health Center's farmers market. So he'll tell more about that to us as well as what he's doing. We have another special guest as well, Jason Chow. And Jason is the partner to the famous Harley Tunick Chow, who you met at the last assembly. And they were they're both from the local general store. They're husband and wife in the business. He's the butcher and she's the baker, as you know from having met Harley last semester, if you were here. And they are just nominated as a semifinalist for the James Beard Award. Very, very, very proud of the local general store. They work with locally sourced meats. Jason has a background from the University of Hawaii at Manoa in biology, and then he went on to pursue his passion for cooking. He's worked at restaurants like Chai's, Chef Mavro, Alan Wong's, and he worked with the famous Mud Hen Water and Town Tribe as well. And he has a great passion for locally sourced meats. And I know Harley shared her passion for local ingredients with all of you that were here the last presentation. And he kindly agreed to come today to serve as our butcher, so we appreciate him taking time away from his business, which I know isn't easy as when you have an operation that you're running yourself. They opened their shop in 2023, and if you haven't been there, it's in Kaimuki. So we have two great experts here with you today. They have a lot to share, and I hope you'll take full advantage of this by asking great questions and making the most of this experience. We're grateful for their time.
Ready for this to go? Thanks, guys. Oh, Eric's gonna bring the meat. Shoots. Thank you very much for the introduction, Haley. Really, really appreciate it. I'm happy to come here, guys, and share with you more about the local livestock industry, food manufacturing, processing. We're going to run through a little presentation with you guys. With me first, going to give you a bit kind of a bird's eye view about food manufacturing, as well as also kind of what goes into actually getting the food that how we get all of your ingredients from pasture to plate, farm to fork, whatever new sustainable regenerative thing that we're all talking about now. I'm going to go through that part of the presentation. If there's any questions, guys, feel free to raise your hands and ask at any time. If you feel so moved, you can interrupt me anytime. It's totally fine. And then afterwards, Jason's going to go through a breakdown of a full axis deer that we brought in from Mauka for you guys. We'll go over cuts, techniques, and again, if there's any time that you guys have a question or just need a little bit more clarification, feel free to ask, all right? I'm not gonna bite you. All right, so again, my name is Micah Richards, graduated Kamehameha. What high school did you go to? Classic question. And I started my company because I just love good food. I have family on the Big Island. We go over every winter, go help out with branding. Ranching is a big family kind of business where as much as it only takes two really good cowboys to be able to manage your herd, move them around through good pasture management practices. When you've got a big event like branding, when you got to knock a bunch of cattle, we won't go into all the gory details about castration and inoculations and vaccinations and all these kinds of things, but this is kind of like just what I got experience and used to complain about as a kid, and now I really, really love. My big thing for my company is basically we just make ono. We're just trying to do the right thing and be able to expand things. That's why we don't necessarily work with like a lot of bigger companies or bigger ranches. We try to work with smaller family ranches, people that we can actually make a big impact on, smaller cooperatives. And also it allows us to be able to actually talk to people on the ground. It's only by working directly with your ranchers that you can understand what's going on with your whole meat system. There's a lot of different things involved. And what I do in my company is we try and figure out all the different pieces to get things from the ranchers or from the farm to either the chef or to a family member. We're essentially the middleman. We are always just trying to figure out and answer all the different questions. A lot of people, what you don't understand, and this is what I'm going to ask, like, how many of you guys can anybody here right now tell me what any of these acronyms in this alphabet soup means right over here? Okay, HACCP, what does HACCP mean? Okay, what about HARPC? I mean, actually, yes, kudos to you. Somebody paid attention in class. Hazard analysis and critical control point, if you want to have a little bit too much knowledge, it comes from NASA. And it's this sort of protocol, just like how you all learned the scientific method in classes back in the day. It's about looking through a process, same thing like how you look through a recipe. You go step by step for how you get something from one point in the process of food to how you get it safely out the other end and eventually out into distribution. You're always trying to figure this out. You're always trying to look for what potential mistakes, what other hazards there are out there. And this is just how we make things safer. Can anybody else name another acronym?
What was that? Safety data sheet. It's a simple thing, guys, but like it's little things like this. Like we were working with somebody on their commercial kitchen. They got a contractor who said that they knew what they were doing for a food safety plan. The thing is, if you screw up something, like Department of Health comes in or USDA, FDA, they want to look through and make sure that you did all your homework. Contractor told one of our customers that they knew what they were doing. I said, really? Can I please have the SDS sheets for all the materials that he's going to be building out your commercial kitchen with? Didn't have them, which was already my first red flag on the play. That's the first thing. Anybody who's really, really good when it comes to things, they're always the first person to throw stuff your way, to be like, here you go. Here, they're like, you will always know like your trustworthy contractor or your purveyor, because even if they don't have something for you, they're going to try and get it for you as fast as possible. What this guy did is that the flooring, he was about to just use some outdoor deck sealant and everything. The same coating that you would use outdoors in a food safe area. Why? Because as much as you might think of it being on the floor, certain materials off gas. Certain things, like you want to make sure that if for some reason something chips or something, things have to be rated appropriately to what their use is. As much as like not all paints are all paints, and some things need to be rated, like what you would use, say, inside a cafeteria is going to be different from what I need in a factory where I've got a bunch of like forklifts running around moving anything. Same thing for when you have it inside an area where you're doing, say, you're cooking stock, you're working with raw meat, you're doing cookies or baking and everything. One random chemical could throw everything off, not just inside your flavor, but in safety. And the last thing that you want to do is ever hurt somebody. All right. So why am I bringing up all this? Because this is the stuff that goes into your food every day. Each one of your ingredients, every time you look at a label, there's a USDA inspector or an FDA inspector checking this stuff. The guys who are making your food actually have to go and show where they get all the logistics for all the different ingredients. Why? Because if there is an issue and somebody gets sick, this is how we trace everything back in food safety. As much as it seems a little intense, this is how, when we work at scale, when we build systems, whether or not you're a little mom and pop shop or a school cafeteria that's got to feed like thousands of meals in a day, like this is how we prevent anything from happening to people. And as much as, you know, we're all here because of the love of food, the last thing you want to ever do is soil that experience. Anybody else that can recognize any of these other things?
Standard operating procedures?
Yes, SOPs, SSOPs. They are the bane of my existence, because just like a recipe, you have to write these things out, because if you're going to have consistent food or consistent ingredients and products, you have to have consistent processes. It's all these like little things that we go and we work with our different customers. We're even trying to build out our own food manufacturing programs. It's like you need to have these different things, which is what I'm sure Chef Matt will teach you. And a bunch of you guys, this is why you please listen to your instructors and everything. And then feel free to take some of your homework with you later, because afterwards, when you have to get to a leadership position and start building things out, these are the things that you're going to realize, oh, I did that back in LCC. I don't have to go and reinvent the wheel again. I can go back to what I learned. All right. If anybody else is curious, HARPC, hazard analysis, risk prevention, and control points. This is one of the biggest things I would tell you right now. If you are ever looking for another career besides working in a kitchen and as a chef, PCQI, food safety compliance, guys who actually have experience making food, but that can learn the different things for safety, is one of the biggest careers right now that we need here and also just anywhere else on the mainland. If you get your certifications in this, you can instantly walk out of the LCC with a 65K job as a food safety compliance officer. Like if you ever just want to work the 9 to 5 instead of working for nights for dinners and everything, just say other options. Again, bought our company. This is who we work with. Jason's actually one of our customers. As well as we work with a lot of restaurants, we work with major distributors. We actually push out about 10,000 pounds to our customers every month now. And just specifically for the Hawaiʻi Comp Center for the farmers markets, where we do programs specifically focused on families on EBT and SNAP, it's over 25,000 pounds a year now. Otherwise, 25 hotels, 3 different major distributors, 5 food hubs, 2 health centers. Last time I double checked, about 200 families have participated as customers. And yeah, it's, by the way, I'm the only person in my company. Everything else we outsource to a lot of other guys. I know, yeah. Like if you learn how to plan and build systems and everything, it's kind of crazy what you can pull off by working with a lot of other people who love food. Here's all the different processors that we actually work with. Wong's Meat Market does the processing for all the pork that we work with. We work with Mountain View Farms out in Waianae. We get access steer from Molokai Wildlife Management and Molokai Livestock Cooperative. Occasionally we work with Maui Nui as well. EO Processing and Hawaii Island Meat Cooperative are who we work for a lot of our beef, along with Molokai Livestock Cooperative. The crazy thing that we actually do is that a lot of our beef, because there is such a shortage in processing inside the state of Hawaii, we actually get a lot of our beef cattle from Big Island. We ship them to Honolulu, then we ship them to Molokai. They do our cut and wrap for everything, and then we ship it back over here to Honolulu to be able to distribute it to everybody else. Last thing, any questions, anybody right now? All right. Okay, look, one thing I want to tell you guys all, the biggest bottleneck that ever comes inside just the meat industry is the fact that we deal with live animals. When you're working with a whole animal, you have to use the whole animal. One of the biggest bottlenecks is just the fact that a cow is only 5% of a cow is made up of steaks. So that's all your ribeyes, all your New York strips, all your tenderloins. Out of an entire 1,200 pound animal, you will probably only get less than 50 pounds of steaks, and that's with the bone in. So the thing is, in order for you to have a robust livestock industry, you have to use the whole animal. This is why we use the legs for jerky. We use the rest, we use shoulders for roast. Everybody knows barbecue for briskets, short ribs. But one of the biggest things that a lot of livestock industries live and die on is, where does their ground beef go? This is why every single distributor loves a great smash burger place. Why? Because the daily, who here has eaten at the Daily in downtown? Yeah. Smash burger place like the Daily will go through 600 pounds worth of ground beef, essentially a half a pallet every week. We love those guys. And besides the byproduct for ground, sausages. Who here has eaten the Portuguese sausage at McDonald's? I don't see a whole bunch of hands go up and everything, okay? We actually, so for our Portuguese sausage, that's exactly who we work with. In order to use up the entire animal, this is one of the key things inside the entire industry. You have to be able to clear everything, which is why you make sausage, you make stock. No, sure, you guys are already using my bones right now and everything inside your stock making program right now for veal, for beef, for pork. And if Chef MJ is open to making venison local mocos, then you'll be using the venison bones as well. No. This is what we need for all the livestock industry right now, is also guys who can actually help us with manufacturing. Or if you ever choose to get a government job, if you go to the Department of Health, I would greatly appreciate you, because we can actually talk about food and processing and not just be going through a checklist. You want to start getting ready to get set up? All right.
Smell that beef fat.
Oh yeah. Today, what we're going to be going through, if guys can start, we're still portioning this all out. All right. So today we've got a sample. I brought ground veal for you guys to try, ground venison, as well as local grass-fed ground beef. Along with, Jason's going to be walking you through butchering a deer. Just so that you guys actually understand, it's really important, and I really appreciate how your instructors are encouraging you guys to use local ingredients. The livestock industry is not what it used to be. I will tell you right now, as much as we have essentially the same cattle herd that we've ever had, which is over 100,000 animals at any one time, most of our animals all go to the mainland. We send about 62,000 out of 130,000 herd. We send about 62,000 calves to the mainland every year. If you've ever heard about the concentrated feedlots, or that's essentially where they all go for different programs. Afterwards, for pork, if you're wondering why we don't have local bacon or why it's so difficult to get local pork, our entire herd of animals is only 5,000 head in the entire state of Hawaii, is this essentially. Back in the 80s, it used to be 50,000, which is what, and for most piggeries around here, it's so difficult for us to get feed. It's just always a challenge for us to try and build out a better bacon or smoked meat program. For lambs, we've got over 25,000. This has been an amazing program. Yes. All right, so what's coming out today right now, since we're talking about the different species inside the local livestock industry, I brought veal. So ours is 4 to 6 month old calves. Don't worry, they're not babies. They're 400 to 500 pounds. They're the size of 2 linebackers and everything. If you've ever had the brand one, or you've ever had the knock one and everything, or you've ever been hit by one, it's like getting hit by two football players essentially. Don't feel bad and everything. Essentially, how we work with some of our cattle ranchers is we tell them, most guys, because they have to sell, because it's a consistent way for them to earn money as a family, they sell their calves to the mainland. You always get money. You always know you're gonna get, especially right now because of shortages in the beef industry, you're getting record high numbers for your cattle. So they send their calves to the mainland. It's a consistent, you work 6 to 8 months with your herd, you're always gonna get that payoff. We're working with other guys who wanna improve their grass finishing herds, and we tell them, keep a couple extra back. Go sort through your animals, pick the best ones out for your grass finishing. Well, like, everybody's got an opinion as a rancher, what kind of the shoulders they want. They want a big brisket, thick legs, tabletop back. Everybody's got their own opinion. But the main thing is we tell them, if you get an aggressive calf, because as much as everybody thinks that herbivore animals are nice and gentle and it's just like Disney Bambi, they're not. You can get a grumpy 500-pound beast of an animal, and if he looks at you funny, he's perfectly willing to tag you. And because they're herd animals, they can form cliques, they can form gangs. If you've got 4 to 5 like little bullies in a herd, they can start stressing out all the other finishing animals, their moms. And the last thing you want is a 400-pound bully to turn into a 1,500-pound monster that now you got to chase down with 4 horses. Which is why you cull them early and you turn them to sausage and fine dining chops. And so this is what we do. And this is why we tell people, like, whenever we try and train guys in fine dining, especially when you've got someone who doesn't necessarily, they're not familiar with veal, we always tell them, like, you can remind them, this is a bully cow. He had his chance to be nice and get the grass finishing school, but he wasn't. Right now what we're passing out is the ground veal, ground beef, and ground venison. You're gonna notice very different flavors. Veal tends to be 90-10 in fat content, a lot lighter. Kind of not quite pork and everything. It just tends to have a lot more collagen, especially for those of you who have never thought about this. A classic Italian meatball recipe is you take 1 pound of ground veal, 1 pound of ground beef, 1 pound of ground pork. You blend them all together. The collagen helps for the bind, the pork helps for the fat, the beef helps for the filler and overall flavor. All right? Beef, though, you're already going to notice is going to be a lot fattier, tends to clump a little bit more and everything because this is more 80-20. Has a little bit deeper flavor. And then especially, for those of you who wonder why one is going to taste radically different, that's going to be the venison. If you ever wonder what that gamey taste is, it's just, how do I explain these flavonoids we got making this nasty? One of the flavonoids that you might not have heard of is called scatlin. The thing is, like, when you mix it by itself, something like that might just be off-putting. But when you mix it with a lot of herbs, a lot of spices, salt, sugar, and these other things, that scat smell, when mixed with a lot more floury and a lot stronger basically now gives your olfactory senses the smell of like a rich forest, a fresh field. Because these are all things that you would naturally smell in nature and everything that sometimes tells you that you're in a healthy environment. If you walk into a field and all you smell is shit, clearly a bunch of pigs have ripped it up and everything and it doesn't smell great. But when you walk into a regular field where it's healthy, things have been moved around, it's really living, now you get a different impact on top of your olfactory senses. So honestly, that's kind of like why when you taste lamb, which also tends to taste a lot gamier and everything, one of the classic herbs that we all use with that is sage. Heavy lamb crust, mint jelly, or just a ton of spices and barbacoa beef. Right now, that if you've ever cooked with lamb, it's essentially the same way that you cook with venison. You're gonna go opting for stronger flavors, and it actually tastes very, very similar. When we work with the USDA inspected programs, everything's done underneath USDA inspection, so it's a lot cleaner, and especially, how many here have actually had venison with family? Okay, how does it taste? Really, really gamey, usually? part of that is that when your cousin goes out hunting in the forest, they start early, they go on a hike, they shoot it. Where they shoot it, they get a headshot, they get a heart shot, they wing it, now they gotta chase it down and everything. Usually the animal tends to get a lot more stressed out. When guys go out for a USDA inspected program, they go out at night, the temperature is a lot lower. So already different environment, lower stress situation. Deers naturally feed at night. So again, lower stress situation. And for USDA, you have to do what's called a humane dispatch, which means a guy's gotta hit it at distance with a headshot. So wham, one shot, and they're done so that there is minimal stress on the animal. That right there is the reason why it also, USDA inspected venison tends to taste cleaner, because there's far less stress on the animal, and especially because of the lower temperatures, it's easier and quicker for them to get the carcass down to temp, because that's another part of how you will get stronger flavors or more off-putting flavors in that gaminess, is because you're not accelerating that speed, that not getting it down to temperature underneath 45 degrees fast enough. This is another reason why when you're going out with your family hunting and everything, the meat tends to taste radically different from what you might get from Maui Nui or what you're tasting right here, is because of just that speed and also that different temperature difference. Also, we're gonna put inside a walk-in and get this chilled down to temp versus, I know what my family does, they just throw inside a cooler with a whole bunch of ice and leave it overnight. Going into that and everything, this is why it'd be really great if you guys would actually work more with local venison. They are invasive. If you're a Maui or a Molokai, the reason why we don't have a livestock industry on Molokai anymore is because of deer and drought. The deer have ripped through the different pasture lands, basically eaten all the grass. And the thing is with deer, the way that their incisors work is it clips. When a cow goes through, it basically works like a lawnmower. He wraps his tongue around the grass. He only has the top set of incisors, so he cuts right across the bottom. And basically he's always harvesting the top of the grass. When we flush out with rain, then the grass can easily grow back. In drought conditions, when a deer, a sheep, or a goat eat, after they eat up everything and they get desperate, they will go down and rip out the entire root ball to eat it. And then after that, it will take a pasture land anywhere from 10 to 15 years to recover to get back to that same level. That's if you don't lose your topsoil and all your nutrient load that's inside your land. This is why we've lost so many farms and ranches on Molokai, just because it's so hard to keep the deer out. They essentially have a vertical jump just like LeBron James and can go like 7 feet high. If you want to look up something cool, just look up access deer herds like on YouTube, and it literally looks like a river of Bambis just like flowing right over a fence. Essentially, the more deer that you guys eat, the safer that you help out with saving native forests. It helps out with conservation. It helps out with helping to protect different ranches and farms to be able have us be able to do this commercially more viable. And really, they taste delicious. So, thanks. Now, we're gonna go into our wonderful James Beard nominee, Jason Chow's butchery for this wonderful venison.
Micah, where was this guy harvested?
This guy was specifically harvested on Molokai.
On Molokai.
Last week, Wednesday, right outside one of the ranches on south of Molokai.
Sweet. So, hi guys. Hi. Hi. Don't talk with your mouth full, but just wave. My name is Jason. Thank you guys all for being here. I recognize some of you folks. You guys came out to our shop around a month ago or so. I don't know. Time just blurs all together. But yeah, thank you guys for coming here. I'm gonna walk through, because Michael talks so much, I don't have very much time, but I'm joking. No, we're fine, we're fine. Just gonna walk you through some stuff. So what we do over at the local general store, so we're a full service whole animal butcher shop, very much like you would think. If you think about butcher shop, that's exactly what we are. We try to sell as much raw cuts as possible, and then we take the cuts that don't sell raw, to fabricate them, turn them into what we call value-added products. So we make deli meats, sausages that Michael was talking about, rendered stocks, or rendered fats, stocks, soups and stews and such. But I'm going to break this down as if I were a cook or a chef in a restaurant, because I imagine most of you folks will end up being there. The benefits of getting a whole animal, you know, whether it is for a butcher shop or for a restaurant, is one, it's cheaper. You know, if you guys took food costing, it's way cheaper buying a whole thing than it is to buy parts. Two, you're able to fabricate it in the to the specs that your customers would buy it at. You were able to develop menus or develop dishes according to you and to your skill of your cooks, rather than at the processors. If you get in a box of primals of, you know, loins or tenderloins or pork chops, you're tied to whatever is in that vacuum seal bag. You get a whole carcass, you can fabricate it however you want. You can be creative. You can actually use your degree to do things and be creative rather than stay in that, you know, cookie cutter box. But anyway, so as Michael was saying, this venison was harvested on Molokai. I found that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the venison on Molokai are a little bit leaner than the venison over on Maui. A lot of that has to do with, you know, the drought on Molokai, lack of rain, feed, and they're running around a lot more. I mean, they're all running around anyway.
Plus on Maui, a lot of them just have easier access to food because they jump into farms.
Yeah. But anyway, so they come. This guy came in that box you guys saw in the beginning. They quarter it up just like this, split it right down the middle and right at the last rib, because it's easier and it fits right in this little UPS box. But anyway, so walking through here, we have our front quarter here. Head was, these bones are sharp. Head was on this side. This is the front leg. Four-legged animals, livestock animals, they don't have 4 legs. They have 2 legs and 2 shoulders, just like us. So your front leg is the front shoulder. Just like how if you guys get pork butts, it's not pork butts, pork shoulder. It's not pork front leg, it's pork shoulder. This is the other side of that front quarter, minus the shank.
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I'm just happy I got here on time.
And then this is the back. Back leg here, or a leg, rear leg. Tail was right here on this side. Yeah. So a brief rundown of cuts. Front shank, back shank. We have, oh, I forgot about that thing. Cool. Neck was here, shoulder. We have our loin section right here. So rib chops, rib chops, you have the venison loin, which also extends down this side. Loin, tenderloin, sirloin here, top round, bottom round, knuckle or sirloin tip, and then we have our back leg. Okay, everyone got that?
Another thing that every hunter likes to call the loin is the back strap. So whenever your friends are always talking about back straps, that's it right there.
Yeah, so a lot of hunters, and if you guys ever processed through a venison before, they'll take backstrap, maybe this muscle right here, they call it the football or the money muscle, and the rest they grind it. So if you think about your cost as a cook, as a chef, you can make what with grind? What can you guys make with ground beef or ground venison? Nothing? Burgers, locomoco, spaghetti, what else? Meatballs. Chorizo, so sausage stuff, right? Yeah, great. But how much can you charge for that? Not a lot. 20 bucks maybe for a good plate lunch, good locomoco, maybe 20 bucks.
$35 if you got a fancy place.
Yeah. Your Alan Wongs you can spend anyway. But how much can you charge for a nice little medallion of a leg steak on a plate, nice jus on top, put nice scalloped potatoes, yeah, $50, and you're only giving maybe a 2-ounce portion versus your half pound of local moco. So being able to determine what cuts to make and how to utilize that and how to maximize your cost, that's one benefit of getting a whole carcass animal. Okay, going into it. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna separate our shoulders. I'm gonna put one off. Just clear space here. So we're gonna work the front first. I like to work my way outside in, so finding the extremities and working that way. Because if I cut this off here and I wanted to work more of the shank, it's working from a small piece on a small piece. I would rather work a small piece from a big piece. You have more leverage, more weight on the back here. First thing I like to do is these shanks are really good for low and slow braising, stewing cuts. I like to break down, and those of you guys who came to the shop and watched the pork demo, I like to break things down in terms of muscles of locomotion and muscles of support. First of all, muscles of locomotion. Muscle of locomotion is when the muscles that animals use to move. So in grazing animals, that's all your shoulders, necks, shanks. They're always on their front two shoulders. They're always moving, always grazing. High muscle activity, high blood flow, high flavor. Caveat is, there's a lot of connective tissue in it, a lot of connective tissue, a lot of collagen. So braising, stewing, grind to break down those connective tissues. On the opposite side, we have our muscles of support. They just hang out. They don't do anything. They support the rest of the animal. Low movement, low blood flow, very minimal flavor, but very tender. So things like backstraps, loins, ribeyes, New Yorks, pork chops, filet mignon, super tender, but not as much flavor as your muscles of locomotion, your shoulders, shanks, and things like that. Oh, sound familiar? Yeah, cool. Any questions on that? Sweet. Yes.
So it's like a chicken. Which one is like locomotion?
Yes. Chicken is a really good example. So you have white meat and dark meat, right? So can you guess which one is locomotion? Dark meat. Why? Movement, high blood flow, darker meat. Yes. Muscles of support would just be kind of hanging out, so breast meat. Wings are like commercial chicken. They don't really fly very much, so they're kind of on the white meat side. But if you get like pasture raised chicken, and chickens actually flap their wings a lot, you have a little bit more muscle development, more tendons, more collagen in the wings. Yeah. Good question. Nobody? Okay, cool. So low and slow braising, stewing. You can make also bucos with this. Cut this cross section. Right now, we're just gonna take the whole thing off as a whole piece. The best thing about ossobuco to me is the marrow. The marrow is the thing that's gonna add a lot of body to your stock, and it's also really good to eat. So in order to take advantage of that marrow, you need to cut this knuckle off. So I cut this knuckle off first and then cut the shank. So meat saws, you're going to use on bone. And then see how exposed. There you go. So expose that marrow right in there, right? Oh, cool. Look at that. I need one of these, man. And then just right off. So people ask me what my favorite cut of meat is. Shanks they're pretty up there. Low and slow braising, stewing cuts. There's nothing better than a stew for me. Beef stew, I think that would be the thing that I would cook for somebody like a loved one or someone I cared about. Beef stew, guarantee. Yeah. Not the shanks, the rib section right here. So this is your lamb chops, your lollipop chops right here. So a typical rib rack is 8 bones. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cut twice, cut one. Count twice, cut once. Not used to doing this on a quarter carcass. So quiet. Okay. So shoulders, so low and slow braising, stewing cut. Remember we talked about muscles of locomotion. You could do multiple things with this. A really good dish that you can use to kind of extend your costs a little bit, ragouts. So just put this whole thing in your oven overnight, and then it just falls apart, shredded apart. Have a nice ragu, serve it over pasta. You can serve, a 2-ounce portion for $30 there. Or you could bone it out and then tie it and have a nice little shoulder roast. That's what we're gonna do right now. I don't know if we're gonna tie it, but we'll bone it out. So right here, if you're gonna relate this to beef, this portion underneath is the brisket. And then this portion up top here is our chuck. So if you guys think about how you guys cook briskets and chuck, low and slow braising, stewing cuts. This is pretty straightforward about boning things out. When you guys bone things out, you guys always want to use the tip of your knife, utilizing the natural curve of the boning knife. Chef's knives are designed to cut on the chop and the kind of slicing this way. These butcher knives are designed to cut on the push and the pull. So they're more slicing knives. Neck bones, do not throw away any of your bones. Neck bones are really good for stocks. You see, it's pretty much almost impossible to hug the bone on these guys because there's so many little bones in here and they go any which way. Imagine like oxtails. It's the end of your oxtail right there.
Another thing that you can do with neck bones is that essentially they cook exactly like oxtail. Essentially, we've had a couple guys call it forest oxtail or full oxtail. You can use it same as spare ribs. If you get a whole carcass where you can take the entire thing off as a roast and you can actually chop them up yourself, or if you got a friend with a bandsaw and willing to freeze the neck, you can literally get it so it's cut almost exactly like oxtail. And then it's a great substitute, especially considering oxtail right now in the store, I think is anywhere from like $10 to $14 a pound. Venison is actually a cheaper option now.
Yeah, and if you guys are planning to have something like this on your menu, like this will probably, depending how busy your service is, this could last maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days. So you're gonna go through multiple venison a week. So you could even, like what Micah said, save the necks, and then over the course of like 2 weeks, you'll have like 10 necks, 12 necks. Then you can run a special on it. You can do a venison oxtail, Chinese style oxtail soup, put the ramen inside. Yeah. Compete with a bowl.
Or if you guys don't want to do a whole butcher shop and everything, a whole animal program, you can just find a guy like me where you can just buy by the case.
You sell necks by the case?
Yes, we do. We sell necks by the case. Honestly, right now, because it's one of the hardest things for us to move, we just kind of clear it off at cost. We actually sell it over at the farmer's market at $10 a pound.
Wow. Talk to Andrew, that pig.
I did. They have enough stuff that they're already doing already, and they're using venison for tartare right now. If you guys want to try venison shank, I would go look up Eli on Instagram right now. That's one of our customers. They do fish cake on Saturdays, and they just did a special last week for venison shanks, where they sous vide it for 36 hours, and then finished it off on the grill. And I want to say it was amazing. But if you shanks, when you slow cook it, and especially if, like a lot of slow cooking cuts, especially if you're gonna portion it out, say you're gonna keep it in that whole form, sous vide is a great way to do it, especially if you're gonna prep 25 orders ahead of time that then you can have ready for service, so that all you have to do is warm it up and finish it. Another person who also used venison shanks for one of their dishes was Dave Caldero, who's at 53 by the Sea and formerly of Mudhead Water. He did pot pies, but then afterwards they would stick the venison shanks inside there like little legs sticking out of the pot pie. I think Jason remembers doing it.
Yeah. I used to work for that guy. I think he's great.
Yeah, he's still going. But yeah, there's a lot of different things, especially if you're willing to do a whole animal program. It's a lot lower cost, but also it's for someone who, like Jason, is very creative with him and his wife and has control of their whole food program. But now that's why we also that's why my company exists, is because we're trying to expand these different programs, and and not everybody can be able to do a whole animal program. That's why we try and find different customers to take the different cuts so that we can have full clearance on our animals. We clear about, I want to say about 100 head of deer a month now, on average. So about anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 pounds, basically a month.
You know, I love working with guys like Micah and asking them for all the stuff that they don't sell. Because, I mean, for one, selfish reasons for my business, it's cheaper because I can buy something for $1 a pound from him because he's not making money off of it. But also, too, it forces us to get creative, you know? Like Micah was saying, oh, we have all these necks. What are we going to do with these necks? Let's make something. Let's try to
Call up all your friends and be like, hey, you want to run an oxtail special?
Yeah.
Or you'd be like, hey, let me just drop something off. Can you try and figure something out and everything, and I'll give you a good price. Like, the whole thing is for us, we're trying, like, when you're a restaurant or a butcher, you're trying to make your margin on the piece. For me, though, as a purveyor, I'm trying to make my money on the entire animal, which is why when there's high demand for backstraps and tenderloins, and say like Four Seasons wants something, be like, you gotta pay, because who else has a USDA inspected program where they have everything, all the documentation all ready to go, and can actually get it to you? In which case, as I tell people, fancy cuts for fancy prices helps me keep family cuts at family prices. As long as we're focusing on the whole animal for our margin targets, we can increase the price on one end, especially for hard to find and cuts where somebody's gonna pay $250 for a tasting menu and everything, to just have a 2-ounce piece of backstrap for the main entree, versus like, okay, what are we can then lower the price on sausage, or we can make some of these other like oxtail shanks cost a lot cheaper. There's a lot of different pieces inside the system, and feel free to ask questions anytime.
Yeah, so here we took off from this rib section. This was half of that backstrap, or that loin. So super tender muscle, remember we were talking about muscle locomotion, muscle support. It does have this super heavy silver skin on it. So this is basically the ribeye section of our venison. Venison are a lot older animals than beef, beef and pork and harvestable lamb, that we have to actually take this silver skin off. Do you guys run through taking silver skin off in fundamentals? So I don't have to do that. So there you go. This piece right here is the other back half of our loin. So we have the spinal cord right here. The tenderloin hugs one side and the loin hugs the other side. Tenderloin on beef is good 5-pound piece. Pork, well, pound and a half, 2 pounds, depending how big your cow is. This tenderloin, here, let's take it off. Maybe a pound. Not even a pound. Not even a half pound. So that's your tenderloin right there. Super manini. So the one reason why I don't like taking tenderloins off, I don't like taking tenderloins off venison because this can't really get you anywhere. If you make a tartare special, you'll maybe get like 2 portions out of that, which would be a great special. You have 10 venison, you can get 20 orders out of it, which is not bad. But what you can do, and what I like to do, is keep it together like this, and you can, oh, now I just screwed this whole thing up, but if you debone out this loin on this side, and then sometimes they leave the belly attached over here, which I think is the best. Leave that belly attached, put this in there, and then roll that belly and leave it just like that. And then now you have an identical half to your half right here. And then now you've just created a whole set of dishes right here. No?
If you do get lucky enough though, and you do want to try just using that tenderloin, it is stupidly tender. But also look up Alan Wong for venison poke. Essentially, he just took his spicy ahi recipe and then used that for the tenderloin. It was a very expensive dish, but also it's something, again, somebody's gonna pay $250 for a tasting menu. If you're gonna ever just do an entire feast for a group at a restaurant using a whole venison, that right there is a great appetizer. Also, again, since this is USDA, it's already been inspected. They've taken a look at the organs. They made sure that there's no parasites, no issues or anything like that. You can eat this raw. It is totally fine to go make a ceviche out of venison or try to do poke, like some of the similar recipes you would use for poke, to do this with deer.
So this here is the hind leg. If you look, it is significantly bigger than the shoulder. Deers hop a lot. So I think of deer as like larger rabbits. So if you think of a rabbit, I mean, you've seen them hop over fences. You're like, what the? They're like larger rabbits. So their hindquarters are giant in comparison to the shoulders. So just a quick overview of our hindquarter. The top muscle here is, do you guys remember? Absolutely not. This top muscle here, can anybody guess? Top round. Yeah. And the bottom muscle is? Bottom round. Good job. So top round over here, bottom round on this side. And then this piece right here is called the knuckle or the sirloin tip, which is connected to our kneecap right here. This piece, this triangular piece right here, is the sirloin. So before I took this off, so this is the entire leg as a whole piece. So if you guys look, you guys have seen prosciutto hanging in like butcher shops, and they have that like that quintessential teardrop shape. That's exactly what this is. So it's our leg, and then we have that sirloin right on the bottom that gives it that teardrop shape. So what we're gonna do here is you can definitely cook this whole, but the thing about cooking whole legs bone in is you have the muscles going any which way. So when you start slicing, you'll get, you guys wanna cut against the grain. I'm sure you guys learned that, right? So once you start slicing, like midway through, it changes into another muscle, and you can't have 2 different slices on one slice. So what I like to do is to separate all of the different muscles. So I'll take my sirloin off first. This guy is really good to cut steaks out of, or you can cook that whole and just carve that up. Next thing I'm gonna do is take off our top round, following this seam right at the edge of our bone. And then now at this point, this is like deboning a giant chicken thigh.
Notice how he flicks his wrist across the bone and everything using the tip, and also where his pinky is on top of the knife to maintain control. So little quick technique, kids, that you didn't realize that you should be watching out for how he positions his hands. And of course, make sure your knife is ridiculously sharp.
I actually don't like a super sharp knife.
Really?
No, cause
Oh, for the deboning?
for deboning and for like, because I like to feel what the knife, and this is something that I like to teach a lot of young butchers, is that you have to, and even if you're whatever you're boning out, is to understand what the knife feels like against your bone. You can save a lot of time, and here, I'm gonna piece this back together. You can save a lot of time by understanding what this feels like, how your meat feels against your bone, versus cutting and then feeling around, be like, is that the bone? I don't know if that's the bone or not. And then poking in again, cutting again, and then feeling with your finger again, versus coming in here, understanding what that feels like. And if you were watching, my angle of my blade is against that bone. So I'm basically scraping this bone with the tip of my knife right here. So I know exactly where that is at all times. We have 5 minutes left. So this is your sirloin tip. This piece right here, we separate out, is our top round and the bottom round here. Eye of round is on this side. The eye of round is like, it may be a pound. So we keep it attached to our bottom round on this side. So these are really good for, Micah, you gonna go into different things on what to do with these guys?
Pastrami. Learn how to cure and everything. These are one of my favorite things to do, is just cure the back leg and everything for cured meats. Look, bottom round essentially is like also, you can thinly slice it, use it for, any of these you could use for tartare. You just have to make sure you denude it, and you especially watch out for any major connective tissue or fascial. The other thing is, again, you slice anything thin or cube it up or soak it long, marinate it long enough. You've got kebab meat, or if you've got a slicer and you're just deboning the whole leg, just teriyaki. Classic recipe is just whatever you use for kalbi is the same thing that you can use for venison. Show you your masa. I will live and die on that one. Sugar, ginger, garlic. Clearly, of course, you've already got your shoyu, so you don't need any salt. And that right there is an easy recipe for any venison. After that, also, if you've ever seen leg medallions being sold at Maui Nui for like $40 a pound, that's essentially it. As long as you denuded the leg and you cut it into leg steaks, this is also why it's really ideal to separate out the muscles, because if you try and do the entire leg, like you freeze the leg, try and cut it bone in, the muscles turn different ways, so it's really hard to cook evenly. Each one of these muscles is gonna shrink a different way based on how their muscle fibers are turning. Eye round, honestly, is one of my favorite to make if you're gonna have something for leg medallions, because essentially, to the back strap, the bottom round is basically the tougher but cooked similar like version of it. Why? Because it's a flat rectangular piece. The tenderloin, its opposite for a tougher cut is the eye of round, essentially. And also it's bigger and it cuts a lot more evenly. Personally, if you ever want to try and make bresaola, that's one to use it. But then again, this thing is really skinny, so it's gonna dry out really, really quick.
So, going back to the very beginning, we were talking about all the stuff that hunters use out of these guys, back straps, and then maybe pulling off this muscle, and the rest is all grind. We ended up with this grind from half, so you'll get double from the whole thing. And then the rest is all usable cuts to go in actual dishes other than, I mean, loco moco is an actual dish, but going into whole muscle cut dish, you can make significantly more money with these guys than you can with this, right?
Don't forget, you can still use the bones to make stock. And I will tell you the #1 thing to do so that you don't screw this up at home and have your wife or significant other yell at you. Soak the bones in water and salt at least 12 to 24 hours, because if you just put it in the pot straight, even if you roasted it and you start cooking, it concentrates that telltale gamey flavor so much so that every single dog in the neighborhood will be rushing to your kitchen for dinner. I know this because I have a little 12-pound dachshund that was trying to throw himself over a gate to get at it while my wife was coming home yelling, "What the hell is that smell?" But if you soak the bones, it becomes a lot milder. You basically get rid of a lot of those off flavors, and venison has an intense amount of collagen. You could literally overcook the heck out of it and still not break the collagen matrix. Again, learn from my mistakes. I have accidentally caused an emergency pressure release on a pressure cooker, making a batch of stock with venison bones, and it still gelled afterwards, even after I had that giant mess. Again, venison, intensely collagen, makes a great gravy, makes a great stock base, and also, if you want to play at another level, mix it with pork bones, makes it an even better ramen base when you start mixing things together.